talk happening on track 1 here. QA infrastructure testing is happening in track 2. And track 3 is having real-time trend and failure analysis using test and analyzer, which is happening upstairs there. I kindly request you to get into your tracks, please.
We're going to start with the talk accessibility testing. We have Gyani and Sidhant. So we have Gyani and Sidhant from TechVision. So over to you guys.
A very good morning to all of you. Am I audible at the back? Clearly? Okay, good. I think everyone has had their food, so it's pretty loud. So I'll start with my presentation. What I planned to do today was come here dressed up just like this, walk in with my horse, riding on it, but I cancelled it. I cancelled this idea because had I done that, what would have happened is I would have bumped into the glass straight and fallen off. So this wouldn't have been the problem with me coming on a horse or the horse not being able to ride me into the ThoughtWorks campus correctly, but something to do with the glasses, something to do with accessibility of the location. What happens is, I being a low vision user, I cannot really make out of these 4 glasses which is exactly the door. Secondly, those being glasses, I can't even make out whether there is a glass or not. So I'll be riding my horse right into the campus, coming and bang, I'm going to fall. That is why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about accessibility, not about places though, about web accessibility, because it's ensuring quality on the accessibility front for a web application. So that is why I'm here at vodQA. I'm going to talk about web accessibility testing. In that we are going to cover assistive technologies first. Those who were at the previous, like in July I was here, so I had also talked about assistive technologies back then. They would be aware of it. But still I'll cover it again for the newcomers who are in. So assistive technologies are technologies that are used by users with disabilities to be able to operate devices, operate web. Then we are going to talk about, or rather I'm going to run through a demo of a screen reading software, the thing that we were trying to sound test right now. And further, all of these, the compliance of the software with such assistive technologies, all of these things are mentioned under certain guidelines. They have been adopted as laws. That is what we'll be like just running through. And finally, when it gets down to testing, there are 3 ways, and what those ways are: automated, manual, user-centric. I'm going to start like with the next slide now, the assistive technologies part. Assistive technologies that I'm talking about here are only those that are concerned with vision impairment. Those aren't the assistive technologies that are available for other disabilities. Because at TechVision we are actually being able to only test out the low vision or the assistive technologies that are available for completely blind people. There are places wherein paraplegic people who cannot move their hands or legs, or who are like completely stranded to their chair, they get devices like head pointers. So those are also used to actually operate many devices. Okay, so in terms of vision impairment, under assistive technologies, there are 3 things that are available. One is a screen reading software. Secondly, magnification tools for low vision. Third, braille displays. A screen reading software. A screen reading software is something that will speak out information from screen, reading out the text that is displayed on screen, and whatever text is displayed, it will continuously give an audio feedback, which is which is something that enables a blind user to operate computers or interact with computers. With a screen reader in place, generally, a visually challenged person never uses a mouse. A completely blind person will never use a mouse to point at things, to look and point at things. So I'm just going to run through a video demo. In this, my colleague Nitin is using a wireless keyboard and a Bluetooth headset. That's it. That's the minimum thing that he requires to be able to operate a computer. His laptop could be sitting anywhere on any other desk. All he needs is a keyboard and a headset. That's it. So both being wireless devices, he can sit anywhere in our office and still use his machine. He's got that independence. In screen readers, there are screen readers for computers, for various operating systems. In Windows, we have JAWS, Job Access with Speech, NVDA, Non-Visual Desktop Access. That's all available on Windows. The JAWS, the Job Access with Speech, is a paid software made available by Freedom Scientific, whereas NVDA is an open source software. If you look for NV Access project, you will find it. There are also softwares like Windows Eyes, etc. For other operating systems, in Mac machines, we get VoiceOver. That's a built-in service available in Mac machines. Similarly, in Linux, we get Orca. That's again a text-to-speech software that is available that converts text to audio output. In mobile devices, for Android phones, we get a TalkBack service. That's again built into Android phones. So any smartphone that you buy in the market today, if it has got Android, ice cream sandwich or jelly beans, just have a look at settings section. At the bottom of the settings sections, you will find accessibility. Go there and you will be able to activate TalkBack. Similarly, that's available in iPhone. And for new Symbian operated Nokia phones, which is now outdated technology, but that was one of the phones that was widely used in our community, which was having Nuance Talks software or the mobile speak software. So in mobiles, Nokia was the first one that came up with, rather, I won't say Nokia, there were companies who came up with accessibility enabled softwares for Nokia devices. For low vision people, they generally make use of magnification softwares. What it allows them to do is it allows them to magnify parts of screen, have a closer look at it, then also be able to set contrasts and things like that. Going on further, for many blind people who are very much acquainted with Braille, Braille is a script that presents text in form of dots. Now, these dots are generally felt by hand, and a letter is understood, or a word, or a paragraph, or a sentence can be read out. It's generally used with the or rather read out by feeling through the paper. Braille displays imitate the same thing. What they do is they have a rubber screen with a lot of pointing nails behind it. These nails rise up to make a point appear, or get down to make a point disappear. So that is how whatever text is fed to these Braille displays is kind of raised onto the screen. People can then feel it and read it. Of course, there are certain limitations, only 32 characters at a time being printed out on that small screen. Then there are ways they can just say, let me read the next text, let me read the next piece of text, and things like that. Now we'll move on to a little bit of a demo of a screen reading software with web. I'll be demoing out to you.
Line 1. Dash Mozilla Firefox. This is the demo.
I'll now press Control Home to go to the top of page.
This is the demonstration page for guideline 1.
It is reading out the text. I'll press down arrow.
Blank.
Blank.
Heading level 1 inaccessible image.
Heading level 1, that's a H1 tag that we use, right? So heading level 1, inaccessible image.
Blank. The above image was not read by screen reader because it was inaccessible due to the absence of alt attribute.
Now what I did after reading the heading was I pressed down arrow, it said blank, there was nothing. I pressed down arrow again, it said the above image was not read by screen reader. So there was an image that had placed out there, but it wasn't spoken out. Now imagine if there would have been some graph or a chart being displayed in that image. I have missed out the complete information.
Blank.
Let's go further down.
Heading level 1 accessible image.
Accessible image.
Blank. Screen reader will read the following image since it has alt attribute.
Screen reader will read the following image because it has got a alt attribute.
Blank. Graphic, this is image of penguins.
Graphic, this is image of penguins. Now I know that there is image of penguins out there.
Graphic, this is image of penguins.
Just a quick look at the source code if you are interested.
To navigate, press up a Control R, view image info, F, leaving menus. This is image of penguins, source of colon, final colon, slash.
So here in this code you will see there are two image tags. One of them, if you could just highlight those. One of them image tags does not have a alt attribute, and the one at the bottom would have a alt attribute. If you could just highlight the alt attribute, yeah.
Menu bar, leaving menus, visit. Alt tag, PowerPoint, slide 16, image example.
Now, what has happened is an image becomes accessible only when that image, which is a non-textual content, gets an alternate text to it. When it gets an alternate text to it, that is when it carries meaning. Of course, in this case also, just having alternate text does not suffice. We should be able to describe the contents of that image properly with that alternate text. That also matters. So now I'll just run you through a table example. Now what I'm planning to do here is I'll be showing an inaccessible table, a data table that is not completely accessible, and then I'm going to run through an accessible version of table. What inaccessibility is in the first one and what has been done to patch it up in the second one is something that I'm going to highlight.
Inaccessible table example.
Let's say I'm going to buy myself some Diwali gifts, and it's going to be Ferrari, BMW, and a Mustang. I'll press tab here to move through the fields in table.
Tab, quantity, Ford Mustang, edit, type and text.
Right now it said quantity, Ford Mustang, edit. It's a text field, so type in text and all.
Tab, price, read only, edit.
Price, read only, edit. Okay. Now, if I'm going to do tab, shift tab again, let's see, I'm like moving around.
Tab, shift tab, price, read only, edit.
You people can see whether like there is a focus being set in the price field. But imagine if there are a lot of fields in this table, I won't know the price belongs to which product. Does it belong to the Mustang product or not? If I'm going to do if I'll just demonstrate it to you.
Select the form.
Here you will see that the text fields in the price column
BMW unlabeled.
are unlabeled. They don't have a label to it. This is the difficulty with screen readers if a table is inaccessible. Okay. I hope you got this. Any doubts with this example? Yeah. Now this is an accessible example. What differs in this table is I'm going to do the tab thing again.
Accessible table. Product. Tab, right, shift tab, quantity, Ford Mustang, edit, type and text.
Quantity, Ford Mustang, edit. I'm going to go to price.
Tab, price, Ford Mustang, read only, edit.
Price Ford Mustang. Again, now I know that price is about Ford Mustang. Even if the screen is off for you people, it's already off for me. So even if that is the case, you will also be able to make out that which price field I am talking about. For example, if I'm going to do tap twice,
Price, BMW, read-only edit.
price BMW read-only edit. That is where an accessible example of table comes into picture. Again, I'm going to go to control U and the view source.
Control U, source of colon,
What happens here is there is
///E
the TDs of the table, the table data elements of the table, the TD elements have a header attribute, which is a special case, wherein what happens is each table cell is told that you are being identified by some header element up there and on the sides. So when a table has got multiple dimensions identifying the elements, not only the dimension given at the top, just the table heading, not only that, but also the products, the listing of products. At that time, such things come into picture and make a table completely accessible. Imagine if this would have been 11 columns and there would have been a lot of fields in between. By the time I am scanning through a row, I forget what the field belongs to. That is where these things come into picture.
This thing? Is anybody
Yeah.
interested?
Any doubts? Anybody wants to put up some questions about this?
Just to add what Sidhant has said, this is where we are defining this ID to the TH, and here in the row, actual sale, the ID of this car 1, and then every individual sale we are identifying with this headers car 1 quantity H. That is the reason why it was relating it to the Mustang and the quantity. Is that clear?
A response, please. Sorry? What is important here? Okay, order. I guess yes, it does matter. The sequence in which it will be spoken out. So if you want the screen reading software to speak it out in terms of first the car and then the header, then the order would change. The order matters.
It should be the car and then the quantity of the car. That is the reason the order is important.
Can you put? By free text, I didn't get the. Okay. The headers field, is it? Okay. Yeah, label tags. What happens in case of label tags, if you start putting in label tags into the TDs, that's going to load the page. And it's going to make it heavy because those labels will then get displayed, right? So if you want to have a label tag, for example, if I put label tag to only the first TD, that is the products section, okay? And I'm going to put label to it and say that Ford Mustang identifies the field in front of it. There is one drawback of label. Labels are capable of identifying only one input field at a time. They cannot identify multiple input fields. So even if you try to put a label element to the Ford or the quantity or the price thing, it cannot identify all the fields underneath it or all the fields in front of it. So only approach for labels would be to take the label into the TD, repeat it, and make sure that the label does not get displayed on the screen. Keep it hidden. And that will load the page. That will make the page a lot more heavier if the table size grows. So moving on further, all of this that we are right now seeing to have text alternatives for the images or to have headers and ID attributes in the table, all of these aspects are actually put forward, or rather mentioned under WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. These are the guidelines put forward by World Wide Web Consortium. Okay. And these guidelines actually cover all of these aspects, you know. WCAG has categorized those guidelines into basic 4 categories: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. I'm not going to get into all those details today. What WCAG roughly covers is accessibility about non-text elements, forms, tables, then also having the lang attribute so that there is language support as well. I cannot listen to French pages in English accent. That will not make sense. So that becomes important. Then there are other guidelines as well. The accessible rich internet applications being one of the most important one. With rich internet applications trying to give the desktop experience to the end users, it is also necessary that accessibility comes into picture there as well. Then there are laws put forward by countries. USA has got section 508, which is a law that is drafted out of WCAG 2.0. Then same cases with UK's DDA, the Disability Discrimination Act. Excuse me. In India also in 2009 there have been guidelines put forward by the government of India. It's guidelines for Indian government websites. And recently on 3rd October a bill was passed in Indian cabinet that was regarding having universal electronic accessibility. Let's see now what happens in that front. But finally it's going to be a law in India too. That's like one of the indications. So coming to the last part of our entire session, it's about web accessibility testing. There are 3 ways you can do it. One is through automated testing tools. Wave is one of the most well-known accessibility tools. And it's available online. It's also available as a browser plugin. So here we have got the web accessibility tool, in which we'll just like put the ThoughtWorks site. Yeah. So if we get a summary with the icons, things highlighting a lot of the accessibility issues. If we like go to the details part, you will get the description of what the errors are on the page. Once you can identify those, you can fix those as well. So this is like one online example. You can just have a look at the contrast related errors. Yeah. So that's like one of the online tools. The toolbar will be having a look at towards the end of the session as well. Going further, how do you choose a very like an appropriate accessibility testing tool, automated tool? There are aspects to it. Firstly, the tool itself must be accessible, because you are going to go through automated testing, manual testing, and ultimately user-centric testing. The end users of the application need not be specialists. They would be laymen. So they need to know how the tool, they need to know, or they need to find the tool to be very user-friendly. For them to be able to test, they need that tool to be accessible as well. Something that really supports such assistive technologies. Secondly, the tool must be testing the DOM, that is the end result, of whatever is rendered on the page. Not only that, but whatever is dynamically changing in the page. So if it's in a Rails framework, I end up trying to test out the view that is being rendered, that won't suffice. What I'll need to have is something that tests out when the JavaScript goes to the browser and again makes some dynamic changes to the browser DOM. That is where the accessibility testing tool has to test. Thirdly, the accessibility testing tool must provide some guidelines to user-centric testing people, so that they can get a hint of what to test and how to test. And also that the accessibility testing tool, I'm just missing one point. Yeah, guidelines range, right. The range of guidelines that it covers, it should cover WCAG, it should cover Section 508, the UK Disability Discrimination Act. These things are coming up, and there are a lot of countries coming up with their own set of rules and things. So all of those compliances should be covered by that tool. Going on further towards manual testing, if you've got an accessibility automated testing tool, that does not mean the job is done. Most of it checks the stuff partially or not completely. What manual testing does though, it allows you to test entire thing thoroughly. There are 61 guidelines under WCAG. All those guidelines will be tested only with manual testers, those who are aware about guidelines, those who know those guidelines in depth. So that is where manual testing would come into picture. Plus user-centric testing as well forms a part of it, wherein the end users like us can, who have got those impairments or who suffer from those impairments, can actually give more inputs, because guidelines are not the ultimate thing today. They are evolving. So more end users are testing these applications, more guidelines are going to change. So ultimately, after even we do the manual testing, the user-centric testing has to occur. Finally, why is it that manual testing has to be also given equal importance? I'll just show you one example. The table that we had a look at, the accessible table. Just the tools menu. In that there is wave and errors and tools. Wave. So what this tool is doing is it's highlighting a lot of errors. Could you please highlight the field error, the form field one? Yeah. So as you had asked about the label elements, it is giving me an error about label elements. But for a label, as I said, the label cannot identify multiple fields. So that's going to be an issue with the label elements. If you want to have a label, that has to go in each and every TD. So even if we are using ID and headers attribute, it actually does suffice to provide enough accessibility with a table. Finally, automated testing tools are not always completely reliable. There has to be support of manual testing to it as well. So that's it with the presentation. Any questions here I would like to answer?
Thanks, Sidhant, for the talk. Quick question here. So 90% of us, at least I'm one of the 90% or maybe 99%, who just work because when I build some view, it's just there for me to see. Are there any checks apart from tools like this while I'm developing, which can tell me, you know what, there's some accessibility in it already, or if I can run some tools which can tell me or auto-generate some stuff for me?
The only tools that I have been able to look are the ones that are testing after the page is live. While developing, to be able to check the source code is something that I have not looked at as yet. But there are like possibilities to be able to come up with such tools. So that's possible.
Is your team going to work on it? All right, cool.
We have already started working on it actually. In the Rails framework, we are trying to implement accessibility into the Rails core. So that is something our team, Tech Vision team, is already working into. So that is the update.
All right, nice, thanks.
Any more questions, please? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.